Okay, there's one more thing I want to talk about on page 113, because the IRS actually spells out there are three. Did I miss? 119. Sorry. I always love that when I say something, everybody's, oh, 119. The IRS states that there are three statutory non-employees. By IRS statute, they name three people: home health care workers, traveling salesmen, and real estate agents, actually in the IRS code. So by definition, you guys are statutory non-employees. You, by IRS code, get paid as an independent contractor, all right? And when we sign that independent contractor agreement with you, it will specifically state you are not an employee of mine. So like my ICA says, and I'll just recap, you abide by the rules, I'll abide by the rules. You sufficiently work and diligently earn commission, I will pay you. And then my last section says, but I will not pay any of your taxes. I will not pay any of your car payment, your car insurance. I will give you no benefits towards health. So mine specifically states you are not an employee, okay? My ICA does. They all will, okay? Home health care workers, traveling salesmen, home health care workers, and real estate professionals are statutory non-employees by IRS code. For you to earn a commission from me, there must be three things in place. The first one is you must be a licensed real estate professional. This is where you are going right now. You're in class to get this license. So you're working on the first bullet point. You got to have a license. All right? The second thing says that you have to have a written contract with the broker specifically stating you are not an employee. That's the independent contractor agreement that I just mentioned. And then the third thing, or the third bullet point, says that, a substantial portion of your income must be based on sales production. Now, I'm telling you what the word substantial portion means, 90%. That's the key that the IRS looks at. So what that's saying is you can have up to 10% of your annual income from me in a W-2 form and still be an independent contractor agreement. All right? And I do this occasionally. I'll go to one of my agents and go, hey, I need something done. You're a real good typer. Will you type out this class outline? And I'll pay you $10 an hour to do it. And they go, yeah, okay, well, I want you to be here at 9 o'clock. You're going to lunch at noon, so I can dictate the system to them while I'm paying them this $10 an hour. At the end of the year, when we add up all of their income from me, and they did, $200,000 in real estate sales, and they made $400 in hourly, they're still an independent contractor agreement, because a substantial portion of their annual income was based on sales production. Now, let's say they never sold anything that year, but I paid them $600 or $800 on hourly. I would have to go back and reclassify them as you're not a salesperson. You're now an employee of mine, and now I got to go back and take out all the taxes and stuff like that. So for you to earn a commission, you got to have a license. You got to be under contract with a broker for a sales associate, and a substantial portion of your annual income has to be on sales production. All right?
So if you aren't at that 90, if your sales part isn't at that 90%, you're doing other hourly work for them, so they have to go back and tax the commission and...
No, they would just tax you would be a taxed person. You would become an employee. The question was if they made more than 90%. So if I had you do that every week, and I wrote you, say, like $8,000 this year, but you closed one deal of $4,000, a substantial portion of your income was hourly. That $8,000, I have to go back and say, oh, you are an employee now. We got to go back and take out taxes and stuff like that.
Are you kind of
Yeah, next year you would just have to do better sales, or you and I are going to talk and go, hey, you know what? I'm not going to hire you this year to do that.
Wouldn't you in theory already just be taking the taxes out anyway, if they were W-2 as well?
Would I already be taking, if they were W-2, yes, I would be taking taxes out.
Or like with typing, would you pay them $10 an hour and then write them a separate check as a W-2? Or
No, I would, if I thought their substantial portion, if their hourly portion was not substantial, I would not take taxes out. I would just say it's part of your 1099 income. So then you would just tax them that way. But if it's a substantial, then I got to go back and now do it as an employee, which sucks because that means I got to claw back money from you, which probably would never happen.
If I were to get my license, real estate agent.
If you were to get your license, let's hope you do since you're in class.
And I were an agent, and I wanted to hire someone as a personal assistant based on my commission. They would get a portion of my commission for like farming leads and stuff like that. What is their minimum age? Do they have to file taxes as a 1099?
If you hired a person for you directly, you would be liable for them and their taxes. All right?
They would be a W-2 employee even if they received a part of my commission.
Would they be a W-2 employee if they receive part of your commission? Well, they're not receiving part of your commission. You're getting paid, and then you're taking your income and paying someone else. That's not part of your commission, because that way they're not required, because they couldn't, if you're calling it a commission, which you should stop doing that, they would be required to have a license, because I just said you can't pay someone for selling real estate if they don't have a license. All right? But here's the problem that you're going to run into. You want that assistant to do certain things and be here at certain times and stuff like that? Is that a yes?
Not necessarily.
Well, that's not a very good assistant, because what's going to end up happening is you're going to say, I need you to do something, and they're like, I ain't coming in today. Which means if you direct their system, they're an employee, now you got to pay their taxes, which is that whole housekeeper issue that you see a lot of these congressmen getting caught on. I want a housekeeper that comes in, but I'm not going to pay the taxes on her. Technically, she could come in at 3 a.m. in the morning and vacuum. It's an independent contractor. You cannot have an independent contractor and go, I want you to be here at 9 every morning. No, you're dictating their system. That's an employee. Now you got to pay taxes on them. So you have an assistant that says, hey, I'm going to be there tomorrow at 9 o'clock, and we're going to put stamps on all these flyers. And they come rolling in at 12:30. You can't say anything. There's the crux between, do I want to, what most people want is they don't want to pay the taxes, but they want to dictate their system to them. And you can't do that, theoretically.
So it would be best at that point to have a W-2 employee.
You should hire somebody.
And what's the minimum?
I don't know if there's a minimum of 14. You can get a work permit at 14 or 15.
So, like, if I had my 14-year-old freshman high school student be my assistant, she would have to get a work permit.
Yep. And she can only work certain hours at that. Yeah. John would know that. I hate 14-year-olds.
Summer they can work till 9.
Yeah. So there's certain rules. Can't work on past 11 o'clock on weeknights, or
Past 7.
past 7?
4 to 7. You can't work until 4 o'clock. You can work 3 hours.
It's 16-year-olds that
16 hours can start working more.
16-year-old? Yeah.
But 14 and 15-year-olds work 4 to 7.
All right. So that's the rules. So you brought that up, so let's actually talk about an assistant. We actually can have an assistant, and you can have different types of assistants. There are licensed assistants. A licensed assistant has a real estate license. Now you're into that thing that you just asked about. I can pay them. We can split the commission because they're licensed. All right? But now you're back into the same problem of, Do they not show up?
Does that have to follow the minimum wage laws? Like if you
No.
put a certain percentage of your commission?
No, because you're not an employee. If you're a licensed assistant, they're a 1099 contractor. So that is not a minimum wage law on that. You can have an unlicensed assistant, but you understand that an unlicensed assistant cannot do licensed required activities. We are going to touch on these, but I want to cover them right now. So we're going to touch on them on the laws section, but I want to talk about them here just for a minute. So you might want to write these in your book. All right? An unlicensed assistant cannot negotiate contracts. They cannot hold open houses. They cannot make phone calls to schedule an appointment for you. There's the big one most people have a problem with, because they are discussing real estate, and that's a license required activity.
Cannot negotiate contracts, cannot do phone calls. What was the law?
They can't sit in open houses. There's a, what's that TV star, $1 Million Listing? I've watched that several times before, and in that $1 million agent has his assistant in open houses, and every time there's a question, he calls the guy. New York must have a different rule. In Indiana, they can't do that.
So, but they can look through like public records to find.
They can do all that as long as they just can't do what I said. They also can't make marketing material without your approval. So yes, they can take the trash out, they can run the files, they can search public records. They just can't negotiate contracts, they can't negotiate your commission, they can't sit in open houses, they can't do marketing material without your approval. So you can have a licensed or an unlicensed assistant. I've had both before. When I was doing radio, I had an assistant that helped me with all my radio stuff, and then we had a licensed assistant that helped do with real estate stuff. The problem with licensed assistants, you will find, is after about the third or fourth paycheck and they see what you're making, they're going to go, well, why should I make $8 or $10 or $12 an hour from you when I'll just do the same thing you're doing because I've got a license. All right? Let's change the audio.